The Atheist Debates Patreon Project presents Mailbag for August 2024. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. This is my YouTube channel, and it is free to everybody, but it's supported by patrons at my Patreon, patreon.com/atheistdebates. If you're able to go and chip in, by all means do. I don't do this sort of video every month, but every couple of months I run through questions that come in and give answers in sort of a mailbag thing. Some of these are coming from patrons. Some of them are not. They're just mail that comes in. And I do this because some questions that I get deserve their own video. Just like, oh, that's such a good topic. Let me just do a video on the topic, and it gets done. Others are, hey, let me just give you a quick answer in email. Some others are, I'm just not even going to bother with that. But then there's ones where I get a handful of questions in of the same style from several different people, but it's not necessarily enough for one video. And so I'll read those here. And so this is one way of many that you can get Q&A stuff. You can become a patron and have your questions answered. And by the way, top tier patrons can book me for a 30-minute hangout or Zoom call or phone call or whatever. I also do multiple live shows every single week. And I'm already in part answering the first question for today, which was, how are you? I'm sure you get a lot of these bullshit emails, but I'm hoping you have time for me sometime. I'm a former Catholic from Ireland and a former altar boy who is now an atheist. I've been watching your videos for over 10 years, but would love to have a chat with you. If you charge money, that's okay, but would love to chat with you about atheism and all the other bullshit, i.e. Catholicism. Hope to hear from you soon. And I'm going to redact the name. So yeah, as I was saying, top tier patrons get a 30-minute hangout Zoom call that they can do. And I do multiple live shows every week. So if you're wanting to talk about stuff that would be good on one of the shows, I do the hang up on Wednesdays. I do the Sunday show or the Sunday show after dark, or sometimes both on Sundays. Calls like that can fit in well with those shows. I genuinely, I don't like the idea of, hey, pay me and I'll talk to you. But I also like to pay my bills, and there's enough demands on my time. So if somebody wants to pay me to talk to them, to me, that's not much different than booking me for a debate with no audience. And you can do that. It's often less interesting to me to have a debate with just like with one person, and I'm also reluctant to give advice about areas and subjects that are outside of my area of focus. So while I appreciate the ask, and there are a number of ways to do it, yes, I suppose anybody who wanted to could pay me for my time and engage me that way. Just email with kind of what you're looking for, and I will try to have good conversations with the people who want it. The second email. Hi, Matt. My name is, and I redacted it. I'm originally from Iran, but I'm currently I think it should be living, but I'm currently residing maybe in Saskatchewan. I'm a huge fan of all your debates, your discussion, and everything in between. I can confidently say I have not missed a video of your debates and discussions on YouTube. With that being said, I have a question regarding the atheistic position, specifically yours when it comes to spirits. I know that we have absolutely no evidence to grant the existence of spirits or life after death, but what recently has gotten me to think a bit is after watching a docuseries on Netflix titled Surviving Death, which was very intriguing. I wanted to know if you've had a chance to watch the docuseries, and if so, what are your thoughts about it? Thanks, and just want to let you know that I always appreciate your courage. Thanks so much for emailing. I have not watched that docuseries. I know that I looked it up. It's from 2021, I believe. And so a couple quick things about your email. First of all, you said you have a question regarding the atheistic position, specifically mine. And it's nice that you added the specifically mine, because there is no atheistic position on this. It's entirely possible for someone to have no God belief and yet still believe in spirits or souls or any of the, ghosts, things like that. It's skepticism that informs positions, not atheism. Atheism is a position, which I think is a natural consequence of skepticism applied to religious claims. And there still isn't a skeptic position on ghosts or spirits. But I would say that probably the strongest candidate for a skeptic's position on that is that there's insufficient evidence to warrant believing in the spirits. Now, as I mentioned, I haven't watched that particular docudrama, but that's partially because when it came out and people were telling me about it, skeptics that I respect basically called it pseudoscientific, which is exactly what I would expect. If there's strong evidence for spirits, souls, life outside of this carcass or life after death or anything like that, it's probably not going to start with a Netflix docuseries. It's also probably not going to start with a YouTube video, but it could start with either one of those. It could start with a Netflix docuseries or a YouTube video, and that builds to something else. The problem here is that we need a way to test the claims, and we need to make sure that the claims that are being presented are accurate. There are some things we can't investigate. I can't go back in time and see what you saw or see what your friend saw to tell what's going on. I'm happy to believe that people have had experiences that they describe as spirits, but I think that that is because of a limitation of our language and our understanding that they just don't know what else to call it. So I'm going to call it this. And then it just becomes a just so story where, yes, I had an experience with a ghost or a spook or a spirit or a demon or something. But I think that the fact that this docuseries from 2021, which was based on a book from 2017, hasn't fundamentally changed the scientific discussion about ghosts and spirits, and was pretty consistently panned by both skeptic organizations and critics, like film critics, that this was magical thinking, pseudoscientific nonsense that just didn't have support for it. What I'll do is I can't pass judgment on a docuseries that I didn't see. But what I will say is that I also haven't seen scientific assessments of the claims in that docuseries that have been peer-reviewed and subjected to the sort of rigor that would be required to reach a conclusion. Until that changes, I not only haven't watched that series, I have zero interest in watching it. I'm not fond of watching speculative pseudoscientific propaganda unless we're doing like a live watch view of it, which we've talked about doing. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see Matt reacts to. I've avoided doing the react videos, although I've done one response video that got a pretty good viewing there. But yeah, there's been some discussion about, Matt responds to blah, blah, blah. And I'm up for having fun with stuff. I'm not just a stick in the mud. You need evidence for that. I love myself some fantasy, some science fiction, and I'm fine with, I've done it for 20 years, engaging in conversations with and listening to people try to advocate for things that I don't accept. And I'll continue to do that probably till I'm dead. But if you find yourself becoming convinced because of a Netflix docuseries that has been panned as pseudoscience, and you haven't found additional evidence to support the claims in there, then you are almost by definition falling for propaganda. They make these things intriguing. They try to make them so that, they sound kind of compelling. And so you're getting sort of a biased look at a chunk of it, but I could be wrong. And this one could be just chock-a-block full of science that everybody has ignored, but I don't think so. Last question for today, and this one's a little bit longer in the email. I might have to edit this a little bit. I'm a 30-something Canadian agnostic and libertarian who's appreciated your take no prisoners approach to debate for years. Cool, because my answer is going to be take no prisoners here. The other day I was watching you and Destiny get into it on abortion, and I was so intrigued and perplexed by your distinction between bodily autonomy and financial resources that I wanted to reach out on an off chance that you'd read and respond in confidence. If not, of course, no hard feelings. Well, I'm not going to, it's going to be kind of in confidence because I'm not going to tell anybody who you are because I don't know who you are. The conversation that Destiny and I had about abortion, I don't remember a discussion about financial resources and everything else, but bodily autonomy, the right to govern one's own body and not be told what you must do with it or forced to do things outside of that. There are exceptions to that as well, like imprisonment. Does imprisonment violate my bodily autonomy? Sure. And yet, there's justifications for it. At no point is bodily autonomy the end-all be-all. There's also the social contracts as well. But when you need a good reason to violate that. But you have this question, your question's about financial stuff, so let me get to it. Let me say, first of all, that I agree with you on abortion and believe whatever moral positions we might take on specific cases, our indignation doesn't or shouldn't negate the right of women making the decision. To me, however, the distinction is illusory. If we accept that it's wrong to violate our bodily autonomy, except as necessary to protect and defend the rights of others, why doesn't taxation fit under this umbrella? Because taxation is necessary to protect and defend the rights of others and you. I mean, right there in your question. If we accept that it's wrong to violate bodily autonomy, except as necessary to protect and defend the rights of others, why doesn't taxation fit under this umbrella? It does. And it is necessary to protect and defend the rights of others and you. He continues, taxation in essence is forced labor. No, it's not. It's saying you'll spend so much of your workday laboring for the state or we'll lock you in a cage. No, it's not. Even if we deny that connection and reject the argument that taxation is forced labor, I don't believe there can be any doubt that beyond the debt itself, calculating, filing, and paying the tribute demanded by the state is forced labor violating bodily autonomy, which is irrelevant, as I've already noted, because it's still necessary to protect and defend the rights of others, which you included as your exception. You continued, I know you're not a political libertarian, but I have a great amount of respect for you, and I really struggle with that distinction as it seems contrived. I don't necessarily disagree with your characterization that many libertarians are selfish, but my counter would be that libertarians aren't against community and cooperation. We're against state violence and coercion being called community and cooperation. Well, that to me sounds like you care more about what something's called than what it is. Finally, you concluded with, I wouldn't say it's selfish to want the right to consent across the board. In any case, I hope this email finds you well and hope you continue to slay irrational dragons for years to come. Cool. Here's my reply in addition to what I've already said. Taxation isn't theft. It is one way that we cooperatively work to improve the world. It's right there with the protecting the rights and defending the rights of others as well. You like driving on roads? Cool. You like medicine and food that isn't contaminated? That's the result of taxation. There's virtually no way that you can live within a society without making use of and benefiting from the work of others. You can talk about problems with the tax systems, and I will likely agree. You can talk about changes and reforms, and should we have a flat tax, and should we have equitable tax rates? And I will find agreement on many of those, but I won't agree that it's theft. You can say that you're only opposed to state violence, but getting your bill isn't violence. And taxes are what we owe for all that we've been benefiting from. You could just as easily suggest that you should be allowed to steal other people's things without a threat of being locked up, right? I mean, they have property, you want it, you should be able to take it without any threat of being locked up. That's threatening to lock you up if you do something is state violence, according to you. But that's what keeps you from taking someone else's car. And that's okay, but you want to be able to benefit from their work without compensation? The people who built the roads, who's going to pay those? People who fix the roads, who's going to pay them? Where does that money come from? You're going to trust and rely on the goodwill of the people in the system? Because that just doesn't work. What do you do to get compensation from someone who is benefiting from the system but not contributing to it? The taxation is theft argument is myopic and rooted in an oversimplification of the very complex nature of our societies. As a matter of fact, continuing to contribute or to benefit from the society without contributing to it is theft. So this is a consequence for that. Your continued citizenship, wherever you're a citizen, and your participation in the system is the consent that you're looking for. Because if you don't like the tax system where you are, you can work to change the system where you are, or you can work to change where you are to find a better system. But there are consequences to benefiting without contributing. Without the governmental system that you're paying taxes to, what is your foundation for property rights? Where does your right to have property come from? Where does your right to have your property protected come from? And I mean your property as in your house, your car, but also the very currency that you've earned and want to not be forced to contribute. The threat of consequences, which you want to simplify as violence, is required because we don't live in a fantasy land of, hey, I just want to contribute without being threatened. Because that notion of, hey, I just want to contribute without being threatened is easily responded to with, cool, contribute, because the threat is only relevant to the people who don't contribute, the people who are benefiting from the system without contributing. And the reality is that it gets even more complicated than that. There are people who are always going to benefit more than they contribute, and people who are going to contribute more than they benefit. But what we've grown to understand is that that is necessary because you can't tell who is going to switch from benefiting more than contributing to contributing more than benefiting because they benefited. The sort of things that allow someone to have public transportation in order to get back and forth to work so that they can contribute to the system. Those things, we can have all kinds of discussions about what tax rates should be and who should be paying the most. Tax freaking billionaires and corporations, just ridiculous. And tank the stock market, do whatever. You can have those kinds of arguments. I've tried repeatedly over the years. I just don't grasp or understand the taxation is theft. It seems like a myopic oversimplification that reverses the actual situation, which is continuing to benefit from a system you're not contributing to. How is that not theft? And I don't see a way that any of us can live without benefiting from a system. He said on a computer that had to be purchased so that I can upload the file to the internet for everybody to see. But I didn't create the internet. Anyway, I get your concerns. I don't understand the taxation is theft thing. So is not being allowed to steal. But on that note, that's the mailbag for August. If you have questions, you can become a patron, or you can just email me at sans.deity@gmail.com, and I will go through them and find what I should respond to. In the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. And, if you're open to participating in a system, do so. And that system might be my Patreon. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.